Hey everyone, welcome to the Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 afternoon show, Innovation Fika here with Donnie Lygonis from Stockholm, Sweden. Not so sunny today, but still not too bad weather. Warm, uncannily warm for November. Happy to see quite a few people online today. Nice. I thought we'd get, I'll get that, turn that one off as well. Perfect, very much. Right, let's get started. Today I thought we'd talk about values and core values. How do we use them? Why do we use them? Why do we have them? And what are they good for? There's a lot of examples. I mean, I think most of us have either been working with or in large companies where they've had, you've had these very cliche core values of integrity, security, loyalty, customer kind of things on the walls, and then all of the employees kind of go, yeah, right, and they sort of kind of believe them or not. And I think one of the most famous examples is I don't remember if you remember the old company Enron, the big company in the early 2000s that went bust in a most spectacular way. I mean, they had core values which were integrity and honesty and those kind of things. And I think my first main belief is that if you have a set of core values that you don't follow or are just there to be window dressing, then they are counterproductive. Then they can even do more harm than good, because if people truly don't believe in them, especially your employees or your customers for that sake, then it's really tough. It's really, really tough. So make sure that if you're going to use core values, then make sure to live by them and really try and integrate them into your company. So I think that's one really important part. And then cool, Victoria, nice to see you. Happy to see you online. And I think also another thing when it comes to values is that you have to sort out, because I mean there's a bunch of different kinds of core values, right? You have first of all, you have your core values. Those are the fundamentals of the company, or yourself for that part. The actual basic values of the company could be honesty or integrity, or like Amazon, customer obsession, things like that. Google has a list of 10 things we believe in, like a credo kind of thing. And then, that's what is now. That is our company, or yourself for that matter, now. And this is something you often mistake. This is often the mix up here. You have core values on one hand, and then you have aspirational values. And aspirational values are things that you're trying to aspire to, things that we wish we could be this, or we want to be this, or this is where we're going. And the one big mistake companies do is that they take aspirational values and they present them to their employees as if they were core values, which of course nobody believes in, because that's not where we are today. So I've worked in companies like that, or worked with companies like that, where they've had all of the employees sitting in front of them. The management comes up and they say, "Oh, here's our new core values," and they go da, 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 and everybody goes, "No, I don't believe in that. That's not me. That's not us." On the other hand, if the company had said, "This is what we want to become. This is where we want to go, and we need your help to get there," that would have changed the whole thing. It would have changed it around completely. So don't mistake the core values, which are today, and with the aspirational values of where you want to be tomorrow. That's one thing. And then there's another one. It's usually called what do they call them? Permission to play values, and that's just hygiene factors. The things that doesn't need to go into a framed thing on the wall. It's the basics of how we treat each other as human beings in a company, or that we don't lie to each other. It doesn't have to be, because if you put something which is super obvious as a core value, and it doesn't really mean anything more than being a decent human being, then, you know, every time I see a company with a core value which is sort of kind of obvious and too generic, I say, okay, so I see you've written what it could be, honesty, you know, on your core value. I mean, who would write dishonesty on their core value? I mean, it's not something that it's not that you can't really be opposed that. So, you know, so that's a kind of, you know, permission to play values that are just out there. They don't need to put into a core value book. And then, of course, there's the fourth one, which is accidental values. And those are the ones that, you know, just more usually also called, you know, corporate culture, the stuff that happens and becomes because of the way we act as people. And, you know, it's like parents and leaders. Nobody does what you say. Everybody does what you do, right? Parents and leadership, same thing. They don't do what you say, they do what you do. So if you do, they do. And if you don't, they don't. So don't tell them to do something. I mean, that's like my very short comment on this whole COVID thing. It's very easy to stand on TV and say that we should be doing this and we shouldn't be doing that. But, you know, if you don't see them adhering to the same principles themselves, it's really, really hard to follow it. And if they say, oh, as far as I can see, everybody's doing great out there. And I go, you know, well, you've never been downtown at my supermarket at 6 o'clock in the evening, because then you wouldn't say that, because people aren't doing really well and they aren't looking after each other. So, you know, you can't stand you can't be in your ivory tower and talk about what it looks like on the floor amongst the people or the employees without having a clue about it. So that goes into core values as well, if we're going to do an example from real life right now. So then we had the four sets of values. We had the core values, which is the actual values of the company. We have the aspirational values, that's where we're trying to headed. We have the permission to play values, which is more or less, you know, what we have between us. And then we have the accidental values. Those are the things that we can see floating around. The important thing for you as a business leader is, of course, to sort them out. Cool. We're having some good comments in here. I like this. Values, responsiveness, flexibility, integrity, community, and innovation. Many companies write core values in blah, blah, blah form. How do you prove them? What's your action connected to your core values? Good. This is good. And that's perfect. What I wanted to lead up to as well is, well, you know, how do we work with the core values? Why do we have them? That's number one. Why have core values at all if we're not going to use them? And if we're going to use them, how the heck do we use them? So my best and easiest tips is, one, don't start by writing some really cool words, putting them on a piece of paper and then framing them and saying, this is our company, because that's not your company. It's cool words that you found probably online, and you picked a company that you liked and you stole their values, or borrowed their values. You need to start with yourselves and think, okay, what is it we are, or what represents us, or how do we actually, what are we? What are we all about? What do we want to be known for? What do we mean? Because that's when we start talking about using core values. Core values is something that helps us all as in a company, everybody in the company, from top management down to anybody else, anywhere, to make more or less split-second decisions in an everyday environment, because ingrained in your core what it's all about. So it helps in decision making, it helps in direction, and it helps in figuring out what's the right thing to do. That's number one when working with core values. And then the other thing is as well, and if you're talking about corporate core values and identity, core values can be a good way of working with identity for your company. However, in a big survey done in 2013, I think they went through 1,000 companies, and they checked all of the companies that posted their core values online as a marketing tool. They had a much lower cohesion between the core values and what the employees actually thought of them. So just using them as a marketing tool doesn't work. They still have to be fully grounded in the company. Let's see, another comment here. Value of company should be inclined with company missions and visions. Right, of course. I mean, it all hangs together. And when working with the core values, if before you start communicating them, people have to understand what they're all about. And now, and one of the second, not the second, but another of management's very common mistakes is, they spend, no, so many mistakes by management. First of all, they don't even do the work themselves. They give it to the HR department, and they say, hey, do a core value thing, and then they think it's an HR thing. And then they, send the HR people off. And then, of course, the HR people, nothing bad about HR people. They get that assignment, and they, of course, then put it together as a feel-good thing. Oh, well, we can make everybody feel good, and it's a happy thing about the company, which is not the right way to do it. So at least then we have management with a buy-in, working on the core values. Fine. But then they make a mistake of spending, they spend 2 months, 6 months, a year working on these core values. And then they stand up in front of all of the employees and they go, hey, everyone, here are our core values, aren't they? And people have heard that. I mean, I just heard you say that 5 seconds ago. And I was just texting my wife about when to pick up the kids. And you said, what? Sorry, could you do that again, please? You've had 6 months to do this in your management team. I've had 10, 15 seconds to think about it, and you can't just demand for me to go, yay, it's the best thing I've ever heard. It doesn't work like that. It's the longest yard is from here down to here. The longest yard from the head to the gut. That's the world's longest yard. You can't expect people to, in 2 seconds, just get it. And so you need, if you've spent 2 months getting into it, they need to spend 2 months getting into it. So you need implementation of core values, which means, in a nutshell, that every single person needs to be given the time and the space and help and support to think about, okay, if these are our 3 core values, what does this word mean for me as a person going to work every day in this company? What does it mean for me in my everyday job? What does it mean for us as a work group? And what does it mean for us as a company? And that process needs to be gone through with everybody in the company and iterated once or twice. Not until then will you be able to say that you've done, a good core value implementation. So, it's hard work. There's a lot of work to do. I'd say that most companies, they shy away from the actual work needed to do it. But then again, they do. Then they're the ones that end up with the framed words that don't really mean anything to anyone. So now that's something I really want to stress. I mean, I'm quite pleased with. I mean, I work at KTH, the biggest tech university in Sweden. For those who don't know that. And we have some quite cool. I think we have some quite cool values. I mean, we have like a credo, a payoff, which is a brighter tomorrow. KTH, a brighter tomorrow, which I think is actually super cool because it's a play on words. It's both, we help people get smarter and brighter, and that we are part of building a brighter tomorrow. And it's like an aspirational core value, a brighter tomorrow. I go to work every day to create a brighter tomorrow, which is, for me, I like that. And then we have, the core values, which are sustainability, equality, digitalization, and internationalization. And those, we've broken them down onto our department, and we're trying to figure out, what does that mean for us? What does it mean for me in KTH Innovation when I work in an organization where sustainability is a core value? Well, it's everything, how I bike to work. Everything we buy, everything we do, how we work, everything is, we try and think about sustainability. When we coach our cases, we try and figure out how can everybody we help, how can we help them create a positive impact in the world? So sustainability is ingrained in what we do. It's part of what we are and what we do. So I feel that one strongly. Equality, yes. I mean, in some cases, I would say it's part core, but also part aspirational, because I know we're not there yet. There's a lot left to do when it comes to both gender equality and all other kinds of equality as well. But I do feel that we do spend a lot of time talking about it. I feel that we have a lot of respect for the question, even though I'll admit, as everywhere else, there's a lot of unconscious bias going on. But we try. At least we try. We have an ongoing dialogue on what it's all about. Digitalization, well, that was, that's as everybody else, I think we got kind of forced into that one now this year. But anyway, I would say that we are also trying to, even before COVID forced us, I think we were trying to figure out how we could act and work in a digital world. Not only us as a job working digitally, but also work with all of the cases to use digital elements to actually create digital processes. And that's another. Let's do another Wednesday afternoon when we talk about digitalization, because that's a separate thing altogether. But that we'll come back to that. And then, of course, internationalization, when we try to be a good international partner with a lot of universities and other partners all around the world. And we see ourselves as part of the world and not just, a part of Sweden here or just in Stockholm. So we're a part of the world. So for me, they kind of work. I'm kind of happy with the core values. Let's see. Core values should be top-down approach and should be taught and followed by every employee from the start. New hires should be given the activity to interact with all the employees to know how they're implementing the core values every day. Akanksha, yes, thank you. These are all good comments. I love this. Thank you for commenting and being a part of this. Indeed. I mean, core values are, don't forget, core values are there in our everyday life because they are supposed to give us guidance into everyday decision making, how to act, how to be, what's the right thing to do. And to do that, they have to be a part of our everyday life. So yes, they have to be alive and they have to be worked with. And that's another mistake we make. We always make that mistake when especially in a fast-growing startup. This is a very normal startup mistake. 4 people found a company, they're super in sync, and then they start running and everything is fantastic, and they still have their core beliefs and their core values. And then suddenly they're not 4, they're 40 people. They've brought on ever so many people. And every week there's another 2 or 3 people coming on board. And then suddenly one day, one of the core founders gets really upset with the newest hire because he or she isn't doing as they're supposed to do. And it's like, yeah, but you haven't taken time, as was said here in the comments, you haven't taken time to sit down with all of these new employees and actually talk to them about what your core values are. You've just assumed that everybody should just sort of get it. And that's a very common startup mistake. If you want people to understand what you believe in and what you stand for, you have to give them the time. Don't forget, you've spent 2-3 years on this. They've spent a day on this. You have to give them the time to go from here down to here. So, the world's longest yard. Don't forget that. So that was my coffee break here on a Wednesday afternoon. We spent 15-20 minutes together. I hope you had a nice afternoon. Core values, use them. Don't forget, they're hard work, but they are worth it, because once they're in place, then we can run much faster together in the same direction. So with that, thank you, everyone. And thank you for commenting as well. I'll see you next week. I have a surprise for you. A super cool guest coming in next week. A very good old friend of mine, and a friend from yesterday, yesterdecade is coming in. I'll post it online soon. You'll see all about it. But tune in next week, 2:30 Swedish. I'll see you online. Thank you for joining the broadcast, and take care, everyone. Love you all.